Good morning, everyone. You are watching the chat session lineup on the This Way Network, and we are your co-hosts, Nina and Rodney. And right there in the middle, we are so excited to have back Courtney Dailey, author of God Stories, and she's here to give us an update, several updates, I hope, because we want an update on the book, but we also want an update on the work. So we're so excited to have you here, Courtney. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun with you guys last time, and I felt like the time just flew by. We were talking about so many of these stories, and it went by so quickly because God is doing so much, and there's so much to talk about.
Yes, there's still so much to talk about. In case you don't know, if you've never heard of Courtney before, you need to know her because she wrote this book, God Stories. Putting that right there.
There we go.
And it's available on Amazon, where it is on the bestseller list, and there's a good reason for that. Yeah. So, and the last time we talked, your book, I think, had just come out, like within a day or two of the time we talked. Is that right?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, it was still very new, and it was such a crazy, amazing blessing. It was such a cool experience. And since then, it's really taken off. I'm speaking at a lot of churches and conferences and women's retreats and all kinds of stuff all over the place. And it's really cool. It's been kind of a balancing act, though, because we're still rebuilding homes. We still have a lot going on in the ministry. So it's trying to balance that out and find the time to make it work.
Wow.
I was perusing the book the other night again, and I came across a place where you had talked about all of these two homes that you and your husband had taken on a certain amount of responsibility for. I say it that way, but it's like, we know God was doing it. And yet you were the one who was coordinating everything there. But you also had a notebook of all these other homes, other churches that had adopted these other homes. And you had thousands of text messages, emails, Facebook messages coming in, people wanting to contribute to the work. And you were trying to wade through those every night. And then I read in there, Thanksgiving came and we were hosting 30 for dinner. And I was like, what? What? It's like, do you sleep? How do you do this?
Wow.
No, very much. I've aged a lot. No, it's such a blessing. We have a really big family. And one of the things, too, about this work, it has opened our eyes to so many people who are alone and who don't have anybody and who need community and they need family. And I think 2020 hurt us so much because people went into their homes and they closed their doors and they stopped communicating and they stopped hanging out with their neighbors. And this work has brought a lot of the communities together. But one of the things that's changed about our home is we've decided on major holidays to invite people who don't have anywhere else to go. And that was a hard decision to make at first because you have your time with your family and it's really special. But there's nothing more special than being able to bless someone who doesn't have somewhere to go. So we say our house, there's an open door policy. People are always coming and going. And because of this work, we've just met so many new people that we call family now.
And not just, I would imagine too, if those people come in and out of your home, you also find yourself thinking at times, oh my, think what I would have missed. It's not just the blessing we're giving them, but what they're giving back to us. We thought we were doing them the favor. It ends up turning out that you end up feeling blessed to know them because they are such remarkable people, or what God has done in their lives, just to hear those stories. Because I know you love stories just like I do.
It's so funny. Yeah, it's funny that you would bring it up because we had a crew that was in here this past week, and it was like 10 or 12 people, and they came last year too. They helped us on one of the homes on River Road that we had to rip off the entire back half of the house. It was a major project.
Mm.
And this team came in, they're all in their 70s. They're retired, they have construction backgrounds, and all year long they collect funds. They raise their own funds for building materials and travel and everything else. They bring a cook with them. I mean, they're on it. They're so good. But they're all in their 70s and they just go places and bless people and do work. So they came in and they just left on Friday. I absolutely love them. It's their second trip. So I've gotten to know some of them and we've gotten closer. But they kept telling me, Courtney, God's been sending us money. We're supposed to come. And I was like, I don't have anything for you to do right now. Like, we're good. We had just finished Charlie's house and a lot of the new families. I think the last time I talked to you guys, we had helped 22 families and we're up to 26 now. Or maybe 27.
Wow.
I think we're at 27 now, actually. So it keeps growing. But a lot of the families we're helping now had their homes either rebuilt by Samaritan's Purse or Ides or somebody, and we're able to come in and help them with furniture and sheds and Amazon wish lists and that kind of thing. So I was like, guys, I really don't have any construction projects for you. Well, I told them that. And of course, that afternoon, I was checking my messages and I had a message from a lady who said, hey, my brother had a tree fall in his house during Hurricane Helene and his roof is falling in. And she said it's braced by just 2x4s and wood, just holding it up. But he felt bad because he didn't lose his whole house like so many of these other people. So he didn't want to ask for help. He didn't want to ask for anything. And she said, do you have anybody who could help him? So I called him back and I was like, oh, yeah, this is the reason God's been sending money. We have this guy, who needs help. And that afternoon I was able to get his contact number. And I called him and I didn't get an answer. Half an hour later, he called me back and he said, you have no idea what this phone call means right now. He said, because my mom is actually dying. They've called in hospice. And he said, my mom and my whole family have been praying for over a year for me to get my roof fixed, for me to get some help. He said, and the whole family was all gathered around her bedside when I got this call and I got this voicemail. And he said, I played it out loud for the family. And he said, everybody just broke down and cried because it was such an answer to prayers. And I sobbed. I was like, wow, because every time I think, and it happens over and over, I talk about it in the book, it's still happening. Every time I think, I don't know why you're coming. There's nothing for you to do, or we don't have a plan for that. Why is God providing? God slowly shows me, hello, like this was my plan all along. I had this plan. So this group came in and they're so incredible. They finished his house within a couple of days. And they were like, what else?
Whoa.
What other work do you have for us? And I was like, I don't really have anything. Well, I called our church and there were a couple of families from our church who needed work done on their home. So they went and started helping them and they were rebuilding porches and fixing a water leak and all kinds of stuff for these other families. And then Wednesday night we had a dinner. I wasn't even going to tell the story. I haven't told this story on social media or anything, but we had a dinner at our church before Bible class. And they all came to the dinner. We were sitting around talking and everything. And they asked me, Courtney, what's going on with your house? Because over a year ago, we discovered black mold. And our house is only a little over 2 years old. But we had some issues with a shower installed that didn't go well in our house. I mean, we had to gut the whole bathroom. And our bathroom has been studs, no insulation, no drywall, just a construction zone for over a year. Wow. And they were like, what's going on with your house? I was like, we're not talking about our house. We got other things going on. And they said, hey, the last day of our trip, we want to come to your house. Let us put your insulation and your drywall at least back in so your bathroom's insulated and things don't freeze. We'd like to do that for you before we leave. And I was like, no, and they said, no, we want to bless you. And it just, I bawled my eyes out. It tore me all to pieces. These volunteers are incredible and they keep coming. Everybody, every time we need a carpenter, one shows up in my inbox.
Wow.
So, okay, so let's back up just a minute here because there may be some people watching this who they're familiar with what happened with Hurricane Helene, but they're thinking, wasn't that like back in 2024? Are you seriously telling us that there are still people who need their houses rebuilt, need their lives put back together this far after that.
Yeah, and boy, are there ever. We've got like 5 families right now who are just about to move back into their homes finally, and some people who are still staying with family that it hasn't even started. And a lot of people,
Oh, wow.
they just fell through the cracks because they didn't know who to turn to, and they started feeling really hopeless because they tried applying to these different agencies and companies and organizations, and stuff just never materialized. It just never happened. And so I almost, we talk about this in our group all the time. It's like when we started this whole thing for our friend, one house that had been destroyed. We were praying for our friend with his house, and God sent us enough resources to keep moving and keep blessing and keep going. And I think we intentionally have been kept in the dark. God has not shown us the whole path. He is lighting the way 1 foot at a time, 1 step at a time. Because if we had known starting this that we were going to be at our 27th home, I think we would have freaked out. Like we weren't equipped for that. Like we had no idea.
Yeah.
But it also goes to show you that it's God's ministry. It's not ours. We don't have any paid staff. We don't, I mean, unless you count our church secretary who's paid by the church. She's not even paid by the flood relief funds. But we don't have paid staff. We don't have like a rule book. It's just a few of us who love God. And when God puts a need in front of us, we just jump on it because we figure God's sending it to us for a reason. So there's no red tape. There's no committees and meetings and deciding and voting and applications and blah, blah, blah. It's just God blessing people the way that we're supposed to.
Amazing.
Do you think, Courtney, that God would do this with every disaster we had if we asked him?
I think he does. I think that a lot of times we don't hear about it or we don't see it, but a lot of the volunteers who have come in are people who have become addicted to relief work because they worked in Hurricane Katrina or in the Texas floods or whatever. And they come in and they say, listen, I've done this work for years. I want to tell you some of my God stories. And a lot of their stories parallel the same things we have seen here, that it's just God coming in and blessing people as long as they're putting their faith in him and giving him the glory. Because it's all about him. It's not about us. It's not about our church. It's all about him and what he's doing. And he will bless it every time. It's his ministry.
Courtney, I got a question. A lot of times when you said that a lot of these wonderful men and women who come to help you, they're older, they're mature, what they call journeymen and journeywomen. A lot of these people are retired, but they have such an amazing skill set, as you can see. Have you thought of a component to bring young people in, to mentor them? Because the building industry, construction, so many different engineering, design, there's so many areas where there are people who are retiring and they have, literally left the industry, leaving a huge void. And now this younger generation who could be stepping into these positions, these jobs, these very important jobs, to do this kind of work, either full-time as a career or as a passion to be able to help community-wise. Have you ever thought about having a mentorship component where you can have young people maybe looking over? Because once young people kind of get their hands and they find a love and a passion and they see that they're part of a project that goes from disaster to completion, it's a good feeling. Have you ever thought of that?
It's funny, Rodney, because I never thought of it, but God thought of it.
I'm sure.
On a lot of these job sites, when we have work crews come in, we'll have a college crew or high school kids or youth groups who will come in and volunteer. And a lot of times these guys end up working side by side for days together. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so cute and it's so sweet because they build those relationships and help each other. And we've seen a lot of that just as a
Mm-hmm.
natural byproduct of the work, because that's one of the coolest things about this work is that it has not been one age group. It hasn't
Right.
been from one part of the country. It hasn't been from one church. It is all the different parts of God's body who are using their talents and their gifts for God. So we've had people
Mm-hmm.
come in, I think it's been from about 30 different states just in the United States. And we've had people who were in college. We've had guys who were in the military who
Mm-hmm.
were on time off that came and helped us. We've had people in their
Mm-hmm.
80s who came and helped us.
Hmm.
And they all have different skill sets and they all bring something different to the table. And it's really cool watching all of God's different parts of his body join together like we're supposed
Yep.
to do. And
Mhm.
and I know I talked about this last time, but it's so beautiful watching people from all the different denominations, people who
Sure.
used to argue about stuff and not get along, and there was so much division. And when they all come together on a job site, there is none
Right.
of that. They're not talking about, well, my church believes this, and I can't believe your church believes. There's none of that. It's all about sharing their testimonies, how they came to know the Lord, and praying together and blessing these homeowners.
Wow.
And that has been the most refreshing thing to see. I think in all of America, we could take such a lesson from that, that when we're all uniting to serve, we don't have time to bicker about the divisions. That's
Mhm.
Jesus's prayer for
Mhm.
unity. He wants us to be unified. Sorry, I got all
Absolutely. No, that's a tangent I wanted to get to anyway, because one of the things I love reading the book is continually how, as the work is being done, the stories, the God stories are being told. People are talking about what they've seen God do.
Yeah.
That's the kind of conversation we rarely have in our daily lives. And yet, it
Mm.
almost sounds like heaven on earth to me, to be
It
honest. I was
does.
like, how can it be heaven on earth in the midst of all that, disaster and the mud and the muck and everything? And yet, here are these God stories being told, and here is creation happening and
Wow.
renewal and
Yes,
life.
Yeah.
absolutely. And those of us who are sitting in it, watching it every day, it's hard not to talk about. I went to pay
Well,
for
yeah.
furniture for a family like 2 weeks ago, and everybody in the furniture store hears about what God is doing because it's so exciting. But people, you're right, people don't do that. They don't just bring up Jesus in regular conversation. But when
Mm.
you're seeing the miracles every day, you can't keep it to yourself. And I love seeing the looks on people's faces, because when you
Mhm.
say, well, our church is paying for it, and they're like, oh, that's so cool. It opens the door and you can say, listen, God has helped 27 families now in 16 months. And it opens a door to tell those stories. And the looks on people's faces,
Mhm.
people are hungry for hope and truth. And we're
Mhm.
talking about everything else because we don't want to step on toes or make someone feel weird. Or if someone feels weird, which, okay, I did have someone that I started talking to
Mm.
about God about 2 months ago, and he got really weird on me, and it made him really uncomfortable. It doesn't matter. It's all
Mm.
about talking to people about Jesus. Like, that's our mission. That's what we're called to do. And so many of these stories, all of us in our little rebuilding group, that's one of the things we talk about, is that now we will strike up a conversation with someone at the gas pump
Mhm.
about what
Mm.
God has done. Whereas before, we were sitting on our faith, the greatest mystery in the
Mhm.
world. And we were staying quiet. We weren't sharing it with people. And this has
Right.
given not only us, but the people who read the book and the volunteers and the people who followed it on social media, it gives them an opportunity to share the stories. It gives them something to talk about too.
All right. Speaking of the book, let's go ahead and get an update on that.
Mhm.
It's it's
So,
going it's going really well. It's going really well. All of the sales have been incredible. The opportunities have been incredible. And I've just started I think I've started my second book. I don't know. Everybody keeps saying, when are you starting the second book? But we just have so much still going on. There's so much work here. But
There's so
it's
much for you to chronicle, that God is
Right.
still doing. I kept
there
thinking there's
is.
got to be a sequel to this because God isn't done.
Yes, I
Mhm.
know that. I was thinking about doing a God Stories, the Untold Stories, and doing like a 30-day devotional book with 30 of the stories that haven't been told, with questions and devotionals and real life application. Because a lot of people are asking for something they can use in their Bible class or their small group or whatever. So I've started
Mhm.
jotting out some notes. And what's crazy is I'm already forgetting. It's like you were saying, like I've got to be keeping track of this stuff because we like just last week before last, we had taken on a new family that we found out about, and IDES. They had rebuilt their home for them, but they didn't have any furniture or anything. So I needed to
Mhm.
know the dimensions because the lady is in a wheelchair, the man
Mm.
doesn't drive, and they said, "Can you go get our furniture for us?" And so I was calling the man who built the house, and he was an incredible contact. I mean, as soon as we started talking, it's like our stories have been running parallel for 16 months, working in these areas, but we didn't know about each other. So I was
Mhm.
talking to him about everything, and he said, "Well, where are you guys right now? What are y'all doing?" And I happened to mention to him that there's another family we're helping in Jonesboro, but we're helping them with furniture and sheds and an Amazon
Mm.
list. And he said, "Sheds?" He said, I've got 3 extra sheds down there, and I've got a team coming in February 16th. Let me get you a shed. I said, "That's awesome." I said, "Okay, so what are you guys doing? What are y'all?" And he said, "Well, we're almost finished with this house." Because I was like, "When are you going to be ready so we can deliver furniture, all that?" He said, "I just need a plumber." Well, that group I was talking about that came down that just left, they had a plumber in their group. So we were just laughing because it was
Wow.
like, he said, I'll trade you a shed for a plumber. And it's all of those little things where God introduces you to exactly the right person you need to be introduced to at
Mhm.
just the right time so that he can provide what's needed.
Mhm. And I
Wow.
love that there's so many times chronicled in your book where literally God sends it to you at the moment you need it. I mean, it just shows up. The person shows up, the skill shows up, the material shows up. And then there are other times where God sends it somewhere else.
Yeah.
And and then somehow you find out about it or it gets to you or you have something they need and there's going to be a trade going on. And on the surface, if people aren't looking at it properly, they're going to be thinking, oh, well, see, God didn't get that to the right place. No, that's how he connected the people. That's
Yeah.
how the
Mhm.
relationship started. This is what I love about this. Your town is Hampton, correct?
I live in
The town where
Elizabethton, but
you
yeah, Hampton is just on the edge. That's where we've been working. Yes.
okay, so you started out working in Hampton. You just started talking about, did you say Ides? Was it Ides or
Ides,
Eads?
yes.
Ides.
Ides,
You just
IDES,
started talking
Ides.
about Ides and then Jonesboro, and then, I mean, it's spreading out, and you're meeting people
Mhm.
you never would have met
Yeah.
before. And I can't help but wonder what else God is going to be doing with this network. I
Yeah,
mean,
because that's
think of
we
the
don't
people
see.
who are going to end up meeting, getting married, because they met each other through this, or oh, we found somebody to help us with this, or when they start having other kinds of needs, they'll
Yeah,
have these people. We need prayer. They have these people they can call now, or we need
absolutely.
fellowship, our son is going to be moving into your area, and yeah, we'll take him in and show him the ropes and have him meet people and welcome him here. Just there's so many different possibilities of what God is doing. It's not just the work, it's the
Right.
relationships and the network that he's building.
Yeah. Yeah, he's built a huge community. And it's funny how it comes to us because it's like you were saying, we started in Hampton. Well, now we've been able to help some families in Burnsville, North Carolina, and in Jonesboro. It's just, it's ballooning out. And it was about, I guess it was about 2 months ago or a month and a half ago that I got up one morning. I get up at 4:30 every morning. And I got up and I turn off my Facebook notifications because I check my Facebook messages like once a week and I'm on there for 3 or 4 hours. It's hundreds of messages. There's so much coming in. So I had my notifications totally off. I got up at 4:30 and I had a notification from Facebook Messenger on the top of my phone screen that came in at 4:15 a.m. And the only line I could see was, "I pray you see this message." And I was like, okay, God. So I clicked on the message and it was this lady saying, "Hey, I just heard about this minister and his wife in Chilhowie, Virginia, and they lost their house and they have just been through it. It's been one thing after the next. He had been battling cancer. His cancer came back in March, like 6 months after the flood, and he was having radiation treatments every day. And they were in a teeny tiny camper with their dog and freezing to death, and they couldn't get anything done, couldn't get anything finished." And she said, "Is there any way you can help these people?" And they were about an hour and 15 minutes away from us. But we started looking into it and we reached out to them, and they were the most precious people. And it was one of those things. God showed me a notification that I had blocked. There are a million illustrations in that point right there that he showed me something that I never would have seen because he knew they needed help. And they said that when I reached out to them, of course, they had to put their double wide like 8 feet in the air because you have all these new flood regulations. So you have to put up all this block and everything when you rebuild. So they were like, "We need decks," and he can't build anything.
Right.
Well, I had gotten a voicemail from a guy from Georgia the day before saying, "Hey, I can do carpentry work. I've built a lot of decks during Hurricane Katrina. What can I do to come help?" So of course, so I called him and he was like, "Listen," and again, he was in his 70s. He said, "Do you have a helper for me?" And I was like, "No, but we really need you." And he said, "It's okay. God will send somebody." Well, after I got off the phone with him, about an hour later, I got a message from a carpenter who said, "Hey, I understand you guys are building some decks. Do you need some help?" And now that family is good. They're done. They've had everything they needed. And the Amazon wish lists, y'all, are one of the coolest things ever because every time we finish with a family, we have this extensive list that we send them with everything you can think of because these people lost everything. Stuff like your stapler in your house and your scissors and your welcome mat, and it's everything for an entire household. So they will make an Amazon wish list. And when they get ready to move back in, we kind of throw them a little housewarming party and we post the Amazon wish list. Most of the lists are gone within 24 hours. And 2 days ago, we had one that we did this past week for a young couple. It was 2 weeks until their wedding day when the hurricane hit. And they had rented an apartment and the guy had already moved in. They weren't married yet, so the girl hadn't moved in, but they just had their wedding showers. They had all their wedding gifts, their new furniture. They were ready to start their lives together. When the hurricane hit, they had that 3 feet of floodwaters come down that street. And there was a lot of sewage in it. It wiped out everything. They lost everything. They've been rebuilding their house on some land that their family had, but they needed all of their stuff. Their wish list was gone in like 24 hours. And day before yesterday, I got a message from a lady. I get a lot of messages from people who don't really understand exactly what the ministry is. So I'll get messages from people all over the country saying, "Can you get me a car? Can you help me with my bills?" And I'm like, "No, this is Hurricane Helene. You know, that's not really what we do." So I opened her message and she said, "I've reached out to you before, but I'm reaching out to you today for a different reason because I'm 61 years old and I make $1,100 a month." And in my head, I was already dictating, "I'm so sorry. We wish we could help everybody. We can't help you." And then I read the next line and she said, "I'm trying to figure out how to access this Amazon list so I can bless this couple with what I have.
Wow.
And I just broke down and cried because it's people from all over the country. And a lot of them are these sweet little old ladies who are on a fixed income. They don't have anything, but they will buy that family their aluminum foil or their paper towels. They'll give $10. We have one lady who has sent us $10 every month since this work started because it's what she can afford and she just wants to help. And when they
The
send
widow's
the
mite.
Amazon, it's what?
The widow's mite.
The widow's mite. Yeah, exactly.
exactly.
Exactly. And when these people send the packages, a lot of times these homeowners open them and they'll have notes inside saying, you know, we love you from Wisconsin. We're praying for you. Or they'll have Bible verses. And the homeowners, as much as they love opening all that stuff they need, they keep those notes. Those notes mean the world to them to see that there are perfect strangers, God's family from all over the place who want to bless them. It's incredible.
The evidence of God at work.
It's wonderful to see that, you know, that really gives people hope, because a lot of times you look at the news and people have become so hopeless because it just seems that things are so bleak. But it is true that there are people who are working together and that God is constantly working. You know, he's still in the miracle working business and helping people in ways that, you know, nobody could ever understand how these things, it isn't serendipity. It isn't luck. It is really, you know, his magnificent way of putting people together. And time after time, we've all, you know, so many times, all of our lives have had some kind of element that, you know, this was not supposed to happen and things just blink, fell right into place. And that's wonderful.
Yeah, there's no denying where it's coming from.
One thing that strikes me about this too is we tend to think of the miracles that God does as rare because we feel like we don't witness them hardly ever. And what you're telling us is, no, we see miracles every single day, sometimes multiple times a day. God is at work doing things that we can't imagine if we say yes to him. We ask him to open our eyes, show us where he's at work so that he can bring us into what he's doing. Because I think once you enter into that, you're going to start seeing it all around you.
Yeah, you see, not just in the relief work, but we see it in our lives personally, in our home, and little things that just happen that we're like, oh, that was a God thing. Oh, that was a God thing. It's really opened our eyes.
So tell me about that. That's another thing I've wondered is how this has affected you, your family personally, what it's cost you. And I don't necessarily mean financially, because every time God calls us into a work, there's going to be a death to self. It's going to cost us something. And yet what God is going to bring is far greater than anything we could have given up. So what does it cost you? But what have you gained from it that you could not have anticipated, you personally, and then your family?
The faith building, just and our prayer lives, all of us, not just my husband and me, but our kids too. And the fact that I watch them, and I watch when something goes wrong. We all have a tendency, what can we do? What can we do to fix this? And I watch, my daughter especially, say, well, just pray about it. Like, duh, because she's seen it happen so much. And my husband and I, our prayer lives weren't anything like they are now. Because once you open that deep connection, talking to God every day, and then watching, I encourage anyone and everyone watching this, get a prayer journal and write down the things you are praying for. Because when we flip back through those pages of the things that we've prayed for the last 16 months, I sit and just bawl my eyes out, watching how God has moved, seeing it on paper, the ways that he's just answering. And I have to be real honest, personally, we had a major blow. When you said that about it's always going to cost you something. So before all of this started, my whole entire income was, we had a bin store in Elizabethton called Finders Keepers, and we bought overstock from Target and we sold it by the day. It was such a fun store. It was amazing. But it was my income. My husband builds houses. He's a contractor. He has other income, but that was my sole income. Well, last year about this time, the store started struggling. Inventory, cost of inventory was going up so much. Shipping was going up, everything. And the numbers just weren't working. We couldn't make them work. We couldn't find inventory. Nothing was working. And we closed one store. So we were down to one store. We had 2 stores. We were down to one store. We were trying to make it work. And we finally realized we were going out of business. We had to close. And I didn't understand it. I was devastated because it was taking so much more of my time because we had a manager who ran the store, and he left. He knew that sales were declining. It was hard. So I had to step in, and I was trying to juggle the work that we were doing, rebuilding houses, and work in the store. And I was like, God, I don't understand. Why are you doing this? I don't understand. Like, why I'm working so much and I can't keep doing this. I can't keep going. Well, the end of October, we had to close our store. We went completely out of business. And we didn't know what we were going to do because we were on the hook for the lease for the next couple of years, a couple $100,000 that we were going to have to pay. Wow. And it was like, what? And we started praying, like, God, please help us. What can we? And in the meantime, we were selling everything we could sell. We were pulling stuff out of the stock room. We were selling shelves. All of my office supplies. Everything was going in the bins, trying to sell everything and sell out. The last week of sales, I was still negotiating with the landlord. Can you let us out of our lease? Is there any way we can get out of this? And he came back and said, the landlord doesn't ever do this, but he's agreed to let you out of the lease for $18,000. Our last week in business at our going out of business sale, we brought in $18,000. Wow. And it was like, whoa. And the store closed, and we were trying to pay off all the bills, pay the last electric bill, pay all of that stuff. And my bank account just shoot. And I was thinking, what is happening? I don't understand. What am I going to do? Our store closed October 29th. And my book was set to release September 26th. And as soon as we ran out of the money we were getting from the store, God replaced it with the book sales. And it was like, sorry, I know I grabbed a tissue. I knew this was going to happen. It was like God was saying, you think you have your plan all figured out as usual, but I have this bigger and better plan. I was closing your store because I'm trying to give you more time to spend in the ministry. Because now my full-time job is talking to people about Jesus and writing books for God and helping people rebuild their homes and spreading God's love. Like, that's what I get to do every day. And I didn't realize the store was taking my time away from that ministry. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a New York Times bestseller. I'm not rich or anything, okay? But God gives us what we need. He's taking care of us, just like he always does, just like we've watched him do for the last 16 months. And I was smacking myself upside the head, like, I've seen him bless all these other people. Why would I be scared or doubt for a minute that he wouldn't do that for us?
See, that's the testimony. You got, a lot of times, this is a good reminder for our viewers out there to understand that sometimes things that look like a disaster, things that look like, and it may be the Lord is actually moving. Everybody, you're watching the chat session here on the This Way Network. I'm Rodney Rippey. I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Nina, and today we have Miss Coutrney Dailey and her book, God Stories. And so that's what we're talking about. We're talking about these amazing stories that have come into her life, and she's sharing how she and her wonderful husband have gotten connected to God's network. And all of these great people are together working, making a difference, and helping people in need who have been hurt through some of the disasters, the recent disasters that happened. And it seems as though, for sure, it's like snowballing, because the more that you do, and I'm sure that, you know, as the word gets out that you've been helping people, you know, it also brings an opportunity for people to share in and to get involved and to see, well, what can I do? And people are looking at their skill sets, they're looking at their heart to give and to support, and that's a wonderful thing. And so talk about your book a little bit. So it's available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, is that so?
And Barnes and Noble, yes. And if you can't afford the book, or if you know someone who needs to hear these stories, but maybe their eyesight is bad, they have a hard time reading, my YouTube channel, it's author Courtney Dailey. I have a free audiobook available for anybody who wants to listen to the book, because, and it's not professional, okay? It's me reading the stories and crying and snotting my way through the whole thing. But I want everyone to hear about what God is doing. And you can't outgive God. Some people are like, why did you do that? Like, that's going to hurt your book sales. It really doesn't matter. It's not about book sales. It's about people hearing the stories and being blessed by them. And you're talking about the fact that people might be thinking, how can they get involved, or what skill set do they have, or what can they give? One of my favorite stories from the book, we had this guy, once we started working on River Road, his name was Randy. And we had been praying for weeks. He was a landscaper, and he had spent the flood on the roof of his house with his dog. He had lost everything. He was in the mud. He never left his house. He slept in the mud in his house, no power. He started working on his house himself, putting it back together. And then he started helping a lot of his elderly neighbors put their homes back together. Just an awesome guy. But one of the guys in our group came to me and said, Randy needs a truck. Let's be praying. Pray for a truck. Pray for a truck. Well, at the end of one of my videos, I just mentioned, hey, if you have a truck and God's laid it on your heart, Randy needs a truck. Let's all be praying for Randy to get a truck. Well, I got a message late that night from a guy from just 2.5 hours west of here who said, I watched the video and I was sitting there thinking, I'm one man and I have 2 trucks. What am I doing with 2 trucks? God wants me to give this truck to this man. So I was so excited. I couldn't wait to tell Randy. So like the very next morning, I took my daughter to school and I called Randy. It was like 7:30 in the morning, but I was so excited. I just couldn't contain myself. So he answers the phone and he's like, hello. And I'm instantly like, Randy, God's sending you a truck. You know, like I'm screaming, I'm squealing. There's this guy, he's driving it on Friday. He's bringing you a truck. And I'm all like, ah. And Randy's just quiet. And I was like, did I wake you up? I was like, sorry. And he said, no, I got to tell you a story. I said, okay.
Oh, wow.
He said, 20 days after the flood, I got this huge package in the mail. And it had no return address, but it had my name and my address. He said, I don't order things in the mail. So I was like, what is this? He said, I opened it and it was a truck bed cover. And he said, I took it to the post office. And I was like, I did not order this. I don't know where it came from, but I need to send it back. And they were like, there's no return address. There's no way to track that. We have no idea where it came from. Just take it home. Be blessed. It's yours. We can't do anything.
Wow.
He said, and I had a volunteer staying with me. It was a guy, I think he was from Kansas, who had driven in, who was just staying in his house with him, helping him. We have people coming in from all over, just helping folks. And he said, I told that guy in my house, if God sends me a truck to go with this truck bed cover, I'm going to buy a suit and I'm going to go to church every Sunday for the rest of my life, because I will know that God is real.
Oh,
and he was crying. He said, and now God's sending me a truck. And I was, I mean, it was just like, wow. And I told this story on Facebook. When we did his Amazon wish list, we'd had a place where you could send something that wasn't on the list. He got like a dozen suits from people from all over the country because they just loved the story so much. And it was so cool. It's stories like that I'm like, this is why we did the free audiobook. Like, people just need to hear these stories. The lady who edited my book, I had a professional editor, and she said, listen, if you were a fiction writer, I would tell you this needs to be more believable.
Right.
Because so much of it is just like, what? It's just crazy.
Like it couldn't have happened. It just and I'm thinking now with all the suits that he's going to be getting, and surely he doesn't need that many suits. So that means there are other people that he's going to come in contact with who need suits.
Yeah, that's exactly
he's
right.
Going to be able to provide them.
Yeah, a lot of these people who were blessed by this stuff are turning around and blessing others. If someone gave them a camper, they're trying to find someone who had a house fire or someone who's homeless, and they're donating, they're paying it forward and donating and helping other people because they've been so blessed. We had one guy talk about being blessed from this work. We have these guys, they're the Mississippi crew. I love these guys so much. Every time we do a brand new build, they have committed that they will drive, it's like 13 hours or something. It's ridiculous. From Mississippi, and they're custom cabinet builders. They build kitchen cabinets and come in, and they're so good. They're so fast. They'll come in and install all the kitchen cabinets, do all the trim, everything. Well, they've made several trips up here. We love them dearly. You talk about that community and those people that you call and pray with. I love these guys. They had made their second or third trip up here. And one of the guys, the lead guy on the project, Dan, he went back home. Dan had his esophagus detached from his stomach like 15 years ago.
Yeesh.
Crazy. If this happens to you, there's like a 10% survival rate. So he was in the ICU, and he had walked away from God during this time in his life. And there was this little ICU nurse that was praying for him every single day. And he ended up walking away and making a full recovery. Well, he racked up like $100,000 in hospital bills by the time he got out of the hospital. And for 15 years, he'd been paying like $80 to $100 a month, every single month, trying to pay down on these hospital bills. After he got home from his second or third trip, he said it was the day after I got home, and I got a call from the hospital. And they said, sir, we're calling to let you know that your balance is now $0. And he said, what do you mean? Like, I still owe a lot of money on this. How in the world, how can it be $0? And they said, the debt has been forgiven.
Oh, gosh.
And I said, Damon, that doesn't happen. Like, what do you mean? I said, who paid for it? Who took care of it? And he said, Courtney, you know who took care of it. He said, you can't outgive God. Like, he was just blessing us. It was the day after we'd come home from doing another one of these volunteer trips. And I was like, you're right. Absolutely right.
Wow. And you know what, Courtney, I actually have that video, and here's your wonderful promo video that you had left talking about your book.
Okay, the day is finally here. God Stories is free and available today for the whole entire world. So I've been working on this audiobook for the last couple of weeks. It is finally done. It is uploaded to my YouTube channel, and I'm going to post the link. So all you have to do is click on the link. You don't have to have a YouTube account. You don't have to pay anything. You click the link, and it takes you right to the book, and you can listen to me very unprofessionally sobbing my way through the reading of the entire story. Maybe you know someone who couldn't afford to buy the book, or maybe they have bad eyesight, or they have a hard time reading. This way, anyone from anywhere can access these stories and listen to what God has done in this place. And my hope and my prayer in doing this is that so many people are reached, and that they will be as impacted as we've been watching God move through this entire ministry. God is so good, and I just want to share these stories with the world. Thank you so much. Happy Tuesday. We did it. Okay, the day is finally here. God stories.
That's just wonderful. Wow. It's incredible that things have been able to, like I said, continue to snowball. And then now you have your wonderful book, and you've been able to augment that for audio because, yes, there are people who are out there visually impaired. And these are the type of stories that people really need to hear. And the wonderful part about it is that so many times people can, tap into these stories for inspiration, for hope. And you're able to deliver these stories through your, just your whole network of people, because people believe, like I said, so many times people go, well, that doesn't happen anymore. These things, it's all doom and gloom. But when you have these beautiful stories where people are able to hear real, true turnarounds like that, and then to also, like I said, you're bringing different people, different, backgrounds and skill sets together. And people are now seeing that this is real and it's going on and on and on. So we're really excited for you as well.
Thank you. I have a lot of people buy the book and they'll give it to someone who is going through cancer treatments. That's the thing I hear repeatedly. Or someone who's just lost a loved one, someone who needs encouragement and hope, because there's so much hope in this. There's so much hope for the world and seeing good in people, like you were talking about with the news media. It's all we hear are the bad stories. And this is just so much love and so many blessings from God. It's very uplifting and encouraging. I read it and I cry still. I'm like, this is ridiculous. And every time I speak at a church or speak anywhere, I cry because I can't help it. It's so powerful. It is the coolest and craziest thing we've ever been part of.
Wow.
That's why I love that you recorded this and put it on YouTube for free, but in particular that you recorded it, because it's got all of your feeling that, you remember what was happening in the moment, the part that you're reading about, you're like, yeah, I remember that. And all those feelings come back for you and you convey those. And I think that's part of what makes it so powerful, the reading of it, is that we get to hear your voice that way. We get to hear your emotion. We get to hear how it impacted you. And we also get to hear you put emphasis where you knew you intended it to be, where you wanted it to be. It's so easy for us to just read and be skimming, but to hear it read like that is so powerful. And I have to tell you, I've got a little tiny story myself. It's a really tiny story related to your book. So when it first came out, I went ahead and bought 2 copies. At the time, that was all I could afford. But I was like, I know that I'm going to want to give one away. So I've got a copy in reserve. And then, of course, we had you on the show. And I sent like promo links to all my friends. I put it on social media. I had no idea if anybody, had watched it because of what I put out. And nobody said anything. So for the longest time until January. Now, remember, you were here, back in October with us? Is that right?
I think that's right. I think
it was October. And so all of a sudden in January, I get a phone call from one of the friends that I've met here. I just moved here at the very end of August 30th. So I didn't know very many people. I'm still getting to know people. But one of these women called me and she said, you sent us that link to the show. And she said, I didn't watch it when you first sent it, but somehow it came up in my phone again today. And I went ahead and watched it. And she said, and it was so powerful. I was so moved by those stories of what is happening. And she and I were able to talk about it a little bit. And I said, we're in a book club together. I said, do you think they would be interested in doing this book for book club? And she said, I think you should mention it and find out. So we actually had a book club lunch that week. The week after we meet for book club, there's a subset of the group gets together for lunch to talk more about the book if they want to. I brought the book to that lunch. I brought my spare copy. And then I had her, third-party validation, because she had ordered the book herself after she had listened to that interview. And so I was able to give that copy away to someone who was interested in reading about it, but I also told them about the YouTube. And I don't know what anybody else has done, but I can tell you, I went on Amazon, and because I had, I was a verified purchaser, I was able to leave a review as a verified purchaser. And in the review, I said, you can listen to this for free. Of course, it occurred to me, are you just dipping, pulling out some of the sales here? But then I also said, because I think this was really important, I was like, I want you to know you can listen to this. You can listen to her read it for free on YouTube. But I know but purchase the book anyway, because what you're doing when you purchase the book is going to support her and support the work they're doing. And who doesn't want to support that?
Right.
I don't think there'd be anybody who wouldn't want to support that. So that's my tiny part. I'm not a huge influence or anything, but I hope there will be people that get on Amazon and read that and can say, oh, until my hard copy gets here, I can go listen to this on YouTube. And I think they'll be even more grateful that they've got the book after that, and they'll want to buy more copies and share it around. I think YouTube is actually God's brilliant marketing ploy that is counterintuitive to us, but He knows what He's doing.
It is. We can use it for good. I love that. I love that people are being blessed by the stories. We had that church in Kentucky, the one that's still being rebuilt, that we talked about last time when I was on the show. And they, their name is all through the book, where they came down, they helped rebuild a couple of the homes where we were working in Hampton. And I was talking to one of their members from their church, and he said, we had a guy show up in our foyer a couple weeks ago, and he had his Bible and your book under his arm. And he said, I've been reading about this church. I decided to come and see what it's all about. And I just bawled. I was like, I love that so much. That's what we really want. It's all about the stories pointing to Jesus. We want people to read the stories and look to Jesus.
Yes. And from what you've been saying, and it's in the book too, over and over again, God is opening people's eyes. He's showing them that He is real, that He cares for them, and that He is more powerful and able than they ever imagined. And they're seeing Him do things in real time, and they're seeing His effect on other people around them. And they're saying, maybe I didn't understand this before. Maybe I don't understand it now, but I know that I want to be a part of that. That God is so attractive, I can't not come toward Him. It's like moths coming to the flame.
Yes. When there's a family we hear about and they're not believers, we're like, yep, we want them. That's the ones we want to help next. We want to cover them in His love and show them what this is all about, because we've watched so many people commit their lives to Christ through this work. And that's the whole point. That's what we realized about halfway through, was it's not about building homes. It's about pointing people to Him.
That's right. That's
well,
right.
Courtney, we appreciate it. You came back and you gave us another highlight. I'm sure there will be more. Again, everybody, you're watching the chat session here on the This Way Network. We're here every Monday at 8:30 a.m. and Pacific time,
10:30 a.m. Central Time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm saying
And don't
that
forget
because Courtney's
Eastern.
in Central Time too, and I know she
In
probably
Eastern
is gonna
time.
have
So
all.
we're 11:30 Eastern time.
Oh, there you
That's
go.
right.
Okay, sorry.
Don't forget
It's
Eastern. Can't
fine.
forget that. Yeah. Well, and continued success with your book and your ministry. God bless you for what you're doing for those in need. And we expect to hear even greater stories next time.
Thank you so much for having me. I love talking about it.
Oh, we love
No.
hearing about it too, and we're looking forward to having you again in a few months for yet another update. Because
Okay. I love that.
God will have done even more since then.
I'm
It's gonna be
sure
great.
he will. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. We are at the end of our time, and I pray you have a fantastic day, that God will open your eyes to see Him at work around you, and y'all be
Mm-hmm.
of good courage because God is with you. He's with us, and we are not alone. Bye, everybody.
Have a great week. Take care.